वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। ओम श्री व्यास महर्षये नमः। ओम श्री गीता मात्रे नमः। As we have arrived at the end of this chapter 6 of Bhagavad Geetā, we actually completed the question and the answer at this point. The first question was looked at. The second question by Arjuna about what we call yoga brashta. Someone who, as the expression goes, was almost there but not quite. Almost but not quite. That is how they put it. Someone had done a great amount of sadhana. However, something went wrong and the person, lady or man, passed away. Will all her sadhana be a waste? We saw that Sri Krishna answers it in a very reassuring manner. In the last class we saw 40 and 41. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate. Such a person neither in this life nor in lives hereafter or in worlds elsewhere than this earth will she come to any harm. For the broad rule is, somebody who does good works, kalyanakrit, na durgatim dachati. At a number of places in our scriptures, they don't emphasize you must surrender to Krishna only, Shiva only, Rama only. Then only you will go to heaven. Otherwise, no matter how good you are, you worship someone else, then you go to hell, and all those outlooks are absent in Sanatana Dharma. Kalyanakrit. Someone who cares for others, someone who does one's duties well, someone who is good-natured, will never come to ruin. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. From a narrow window of time, it may seem that those who are doing good are suffering in this world, and those who are doing wrong things are prospering, thriving, having a good time. That is all from a narrow angle of view. The Karma Siddhanta of Sanatana Dharma says, those who have been doing wrong may seem to be enjoying life, but watch out. Either at a later time in this life itself or in a future birth, they will pay for all the wrongs that they had done. Good leads to good, bad leads to bad is a law where there can be no compromise. And we saw the 41st verse also. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto vijayate. This is called Bindu Santati. Biologically, this Jivatma will be born to such parents who, both by material standards and by cultural or spiritual standards, are of a higher order. Their wealth is clean. Shuchinam Shrimatam. Shuchi means clean, pure. They worked hard and arrived at certain social status. All this is important in psychological life because this Jivatma is born into that family, and imagine if the family has got rich through wrong means, the Jivatma also will have some distortion of the psyche down the road. The Jivatma, born as the daughter of or son of that family, will somewhere feel we have all this wealth through unlawful, unethical ways. This is not right. And her mind will have reactions. In contrast, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, when everything is dharmic in the family where she is born, she will feel unobstructed. In her japa, in her dhyana, in the satsangs that she attends, she will not have the mind running away into some conflict, some confusion. She will be able to rise higher and higher. It is said, Yoga Brashtaha or Yoga Brashtava, feminine or masculine, arrives at a noble family after spending long years at heaven and other celestial places. This is biological birth, so it's called Bindu Santati. Then there is Nada Santati. As I said in the last class, the Bindu might refer to the biological process of semen, ovum coming together and a child being born into particular parents. We have countless stories where some parents did not have children for a long time, then they pray God to Vishnu, to Shiva, or some other god form. And the part of God Himself is born into their womb. This, of course, is about Yoga Brashta, but I am talking of how Bindu Santana, something divine, can be born as the son or daughter of devotees. Here it is a great yogi. Shankaracharya said, Punyakritam Ashwamedadi Yajinam. The worlds where the soul goes before being born again would be the worlds where those who had performed great yaga, Vedic rituals like Ashwamedha have arrived. This Jivatma also goes over there. Many a time when you are in an esteemed institution, a noble organization, when you are amidst people who are all truly merited, the material benefits are secondary. Primarily, your own self-confidence rises. Your own sense of self-worth increases. That is of greater value than some higher standard of living. For example, so many have left India, gone to the Gulf countries or the Singapore, Far East, UK, USA, Australia. Now a lot of youngsters are going to Germany, France. That number is increasing. France, now they may think twice before going there. Such confusion, such violence, such riots are taking place over there. Probably many Indians will not go to some of these countries where the social balance is sadly and very badly disturbed. But the context presently is, one is you go to a Western country, by and large, the standards of living are better. Better house, better cars, better roads, better infrastructure. It has its own value, we don't deny. But 100 times more valuable is the work environment, the opportunities to learn, facilities for research, and even getting to know people, good people from around the world who might be over there. There are some bad people too, anywhere you go, but a lot of good people, both in terms of their professional excellence and in terms of their humanity, human nature. If a young girl goes to Germany, let us say, and gets to continue her studies in the company of such other girls and boys who are both good in both subjects as well as in their way of living. What you learn in terms of right living, right ways of living, right values certainly is of greater value. I'm not saying that Western countries definitely have greater values. They have their own confusions. But if one is lucky, one gets cultural benefits too. Unfortunately, all over the world, there are so many distortions of values, so much of bias, so much of prejudice, so many lobbies are at work, so many narratives are floated, and the whole world is suffering, paying a price for that. But let's not go into those controversial issues. But in a qualitative manner, if somebody goes to another place and gets, number one, a higher standard of living, all I'm saying is that is secondary. A higher standard of life, as Pujya Swami Chinmayananda used to call it, standard of life. Cultural, spiritual, or value-wise, that dimension he would say standard of life. Long ago in the famous magazine called Bhavan's Journal, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan has its magazine, Bhavan's Journal, running for many 60, 70 years or more. In my childhood, I had read how there was a section for readers to ask questions, and Kulpati Munshi ji himself used to answer, K.M. Munshi, who had established Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. I can never forget how a questioner, a reader, asked once in one of the issues, what is the difference between culture and civilization? And Shri K.M. Munshi, who was cultural ambassador as well as a politician of some high rank, he said quite a few things, but the example he gave was Rama, Prince Rama, Dasharatha's son, was extremely cultured, but civilization at that time was not so advanced as now. Rama takes a simple boat to cross river Ganga and other rivers. Rama's way of living, especially in the Vanavas, was extremely simple. And Munshiji wrote, that must have been in the 60s, 1960s, he wrote, today, any businessman who has done well flies from Mumbai to Delhi, then Delhi to Kolkata by aeroplane. Can we say a businessman flying from Bombay to Kolkata via Delhi, let us say, is more cultured? No, that has not much to do with culture. It is the advancement of civilization. So it should suffice to say, to fly by air, to stay in some five-star hotel, to use some sophisticated gadgets to do business at high speed, etc., is all a matter of civilization. It's a higher standard of living. But to respect elders, to care for those who are suffering, to care for oneself by being regular in exercise, in prayers, in study, and so on, to take good care of one's own physical health, mental health, to be moderate in everything, neither to go into any excess anywhere, nor make a mistake, nor do less than what one is expected to do, what is appropriate to do. In all achar, day-to-day living, there is something which is appropriate. You do less than that, that is insensitivity. I once went to a home in Toronto. The mother had taken me to her house, and one son was right in the front room as we entered the house. His legs were up and he's holding some newspaper up in the air, and he did not even put the paper down. He did not say Hari Om. Mother had to say to him, Satish, Swamiji has come. Say Hari Om, Namaste. And with some delay, he did it finally. Put the paper down, got up. Namaste, Swamiji, Hari Om. If he had himself noticed who opened the door, who came in, just my mother, or has somebody come? Oh, Swamiji has come. Then it would have been appropriate. It's not necessary that that young boy of 22 or so should sit and talk and do a whole lot of things, but a little bit. And then there are others who do much more, which is also sometimes intruding into the space of others. To get into everything you want to, the guest has come and you are hanging around the guest all the time, not allowing other members of the family to interact with the guest. So, culture is more about being alert, finding out what is appropriate for me to do, what will be doing less than what is right, and what will be doing more than what is right. Of course, people have different opinions about everything, but one should do the necessary homework. One should quickly think what would be appropriate in talking, in food, in sleep, in relationships, in spending, in saving, and so on and so forth. That would be culture. So without going long on that, this Jivatma, who had gone quite ahead in spiritual practices but had died in the previous life, will continue in the present life. Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. Sri Shankaracharya says, Shuchinam means Yatokta Karinam. I gave the interpretation how their wealth could be earned through right means, but Shankaracharya says, Shuchi means in their conduct. They do what the Shastras say. They don't take undue liberty. with scriptural instructions. Now we take up 42. Is for those Jivatmas who had risen to an even higher level of consciousness. This Nada Santati. Nada, as you know, is vibration. Nada is often used in the context of music. Or you ring a bell at a temple, that sound that emanates is Nada. Here, Nada Santati, the word doesn't come in the Gita, but commentators have used that expression. Nada Santati is the Jivatma is not biologically born to culturally advanced families, but pretty soon after his birth, he actually finds himself amidst pious people, good sadhaks, advanced spiritual beings. So the verse goes, Athava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yadidrisham. Sri Krishna himself says, the second category, where it is the nada, jnana, it is the spiritual sanskara, spiritual wisdom, because like the sound of a bell at a temple, when there is a great yogi, when there are rishis, munis in a certain gurukula or certain institution of spiritual learning, and a young boy goes over there, young girl joins that community, the vibrations, nada of those yogis, those sadhaks, those rishis, those swamis, those grahastas. Sometimes there are some grahastas who are way ahead of average swamis. Recent times also we had Gayatri Parivar led by Pandit Sri Ram Sharma and his wife. They were so advanced. They inspired huge numbers of people. There are many other people, I may not mention the names now. At this time also, there are many grahastas around the world who are inspiring large numbers of people. Of course, Swamis have their own advantage. But finally, it is what is inside you. Then, whether your head is shaven or you are wearing orange robes or you are matadipati of some matha and so on. So, let's talk about inside. So, there are people, swamis, sannyasis or grahastas, who are living their life on a higher spiritual plane. That is called yoginam kule asya janma bhavati. In a nice poetic rhyme, while the earlier verse used Shrimatam Gehe, the present verse uses the word Dhimatam Kule. Shrimatam, Dhimatam. Shri is wealth, maybe cultural wealth also, and Dhi is intelligence. It may be said that in life, really speaking, what is of greatest value is how much intelligence we have. Not wealth, not power, not convenience, not higher standard of living. All of them have a place of their own. Of course, at times they come very handy. But the intelligence, that too, not simple logical intelligence called IQ, nor EQ, emotional intelligence. Go further, spiritual intelligence. When one has spiritual intelligence, one can stand huge storms in life. For spirituality enables, empowers you and me to look at situations and scenarios in a very different way than otherwise. fundamental shifts can take place through spirituality. If you just have high IQ, you will figure out, suppose you have poverty, you will figure out how to get out of this poverty, how to earn some wealth, and you may find some good ways. If you have EQ, you may be able to again create a new network of friends, customers, clients, etc., and pull up the scenario. But if you have spiritual intelligence, you will do these two to a certain extent. But above all, you will ask yourself a fundamental question. Do I have to depend on wealth? Do I have to depend on health? Do I have to depend on popularity? Do I need to have social status? Not in an escapist manner. Tamasic people also may ask this question and become more lazy than before. That is a tragedy. But when you are truly sattvic, without becoming inactive or irresponsible, laid back, or misfit in the society, while playing your role in an appropriate manner, deep inside you recognize that from a higher point of view, wealth, power, position, popularity, being accepted by people around you, etc., is not important. You see that my relation with God is the most important. May God be pleased by the way I live every day. Anena Parameshwaraha Priyata. That comes from the bottom of your heart. Then know that you have spiritual intelligence. Jnana and Vairagya are the marks of spiritual intelligence. SQ. Etaddi Durlabhataram, to be thus led towards wise people pretty early in life is hard. Such a prarabdha is hard to get. Prarabdha is also prarabdha. Purva karma expressing in the present life is prarabdha. Yat janma idrisham, life of this kind is durlabham itself means hard to get. Durlabhataram. Shankaracharya says, Athava, as compared with the previous case study, Athava, or Srimatam Kulat Anyasmin, not in families which are rich, which are materially also rich. Yogi Nameva, and Acharya Shankara adds the word Daridrana. Some of these yogis could be poor. They could be having a hard time making the two ends meet. In fact, we get shocked when we read Narendranath Datta, who became Swami Vivekananda later, along with another 10 or 11 disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, had such a hard time for a few years after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. If I remember right, they had a single proper shirt. Something is written there in those biographies. It was in 1983 that before even I joined any ashram or mission, I read with great interest a book called or titled Ramakrishna and His Disciples. I would easily put that under some 10 books that influenced me in my life. Top 10 books, I should say. Ramakrishna and His Disciples by Christopher Isherwood. This man from Los Angeles was closely in touch with Swami Prabhavananda in Hollywood Ramakrishna Mission, Vedanta Society, and he himself wrote a couple of books Ramakrishna and his disciples. So there is a story of all the disciples, or 12 disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Over there, our hair stand on their ends when we notice or when we read the very poor conditions, poverty. One proper jacket or shirt was with them. They were living in some dilapidated house doing sadhana, spending hours and hours in meditation. And when somebody had to go to the shop to get something, they didn't have much money, but some essentials, that person would wear that shirt and go because they have only one shirt. And in so many other ways too. Even when Swami Vivekananda went to the Parliament of World's Religions in Chicago, 1893, oops, he had to face a lot of hardships in the beginning. Then divine grace descended on him, and there were people who they took care of him. So, Daridranam, says Shankaracharya. In contrast to the previous case, here, materially speaking, the group of people where this yoga brashta finds himself could be poor, but they are dhimata, buddhimata, they have advanced spiritual intelligence. Etaddi janma yat daridranam yoginam kule durlabhataram dukkha labhyataram, harder to get. Now, durlabha itself is hard to get, durlabhataram, comparative degree. Purvam apekshya, in contrast to what was said in verse 41. Loke janma yadidrisham yatokta visheshane kule, as described earlier and as described now. And Sri Krishna now says what happens after either biological birth into a cultured, well-to-do family or being led to the environment of sadhus and saints and learned people. What happens? 43 says, Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam yatate chatato bhuyaha sansiddhau kuru nandana. Tatra, either, of course, this is especially with reference to yoginam kule. Shankaracharya connects it to the second category. Tatra, yoginam kule. Once you reach there, lot of things just happen. And Sri Krishna rightly says, it is paurva dehikam buddhi sanyogam. Hinduism extensively draws from the logic of karma siddhanta, where karma, actions performed in previous lives, decide where you are born in present life. Today, 5% of religious organizations, especially the old ones, orthodox ones, still hold on to caste by birth. You know what their logic is? They are sometimes portrayed as having vested interests, having too attached to Brahminical or Kshatriya or Vaishya superiority. They are considered, they are called so insensitive to lower caste, etc. is said. Some of them may be so, we don't deny. But there are a lot of very pure-hearted, pious, very sattvic people also. The Swamis and many others. In Sringeri and Kanchi, in Udupi and Srirangam, in Dwarka and Puri and many all over the country in India, there are a few mutts now, which even now hold. Our position is caste is by birth, which Gandhi or Vivekananda or Pujya Swami Chinmayananda himself did not accept. They are reformist, they are modern, they are progressive. They don't accept. They say caste is not by birth, it is by guna and karma. If verse in chapter 4, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhavashaha, actually neither says caste is not by birth nor says caste is by birth. So that verse which mentions guna and karma doesn't mention about jati at all. So in the present context, just to give you a little understanding of another narrative, see, people like, to give an example, Paramacharya Chandrasekhara Saraswati Swami of Kanchi, absolutely no trace of selfishness, absolutely no trace of so-called vested interest or some kind of, guarding the higher caste against the lower. No, no, no. They were 100% Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. But why did such a man also hold a position that children born to Brahmins should learn Vedas and children born to Shudras may pursue a number of other professions, but we advise them not to get into Vedic study? Why did such a person say that? They have the firm belief, that's their belief. And always we say we should respect each other's beliefs in various matters. So let's stick to the topic and complete that digression. They would believe that God would not make a mistake. God's operating system, God's software cannot go wrong, is their firm faith. If a Jivatma is fit enough to study the Vedas, if it would do good to him or her to study Vedas, God would put that Jivatma in a Brahmin family, in a Vaishya family, in a Kshatriya family. That is their belief. Please don't take it as my view. I'm giving you how the orthodox think and how the liberal ones think. I understand the logic. I'm like a judge. The judge listens to both the lawyers, plaintiff, complainer, defendant, all those words are there in the court of law. The judge listens. Oh, okay, yours. Oh, okay, that's what you say. Okay, I am speaking like that. So, Paurva Dehikam. Because the orthodox people even today believe that birth is decided by God and is not accidental. And there are some other reasons also. They have their own Shastra Drishti. Now, let's not go into Chaturvarnya now. This is about spiritual journey. So, in your past life, you had, let's say, practiced certain mantra yoga, Gayatri mantra or Mrityunjaya mantra you had recited lakhs of times, millions of times. So, in this life, as a 8-year-old girl, you get somehow associated with the Gurukula. Maybe you join there in the kitchen to serve in some capacity. That's also, Buddhist yoga. And slowly the gurus find that this girl in the kitchen has spiritual inclination. They permit her to attend the classes. And slowly that girl who came as a servant in the kitchen of the Gurukula, thanks to her Purva Samskara, may emerge and become even the successor to that Mata. You never know. So, Paurva Dehikam, Purva Deha, Deha meaning when you were in that Deha, Deha doesn't carry the samskaras. The impressions are carried by the Sukshma Sharira, not the Sthula Sharira, the subtle body. Just as maybe when you are in Kolkata, you picked up something. Kolkata has not much to do with what you picked up, what you learned, but it was the context. It happened when you were in Kolkata. You understood some advanced subject. You became an expert in some vector or calculus or something. You have sweet memories of going into tough problems of vector calculus, differentiation, integration, etc., with variables or parameters which were vectors. They had a quantity as well as a direction. You know, in physics, a scalar has only a quantity but no direction. Whereas a vector is, like you say, 30 miles per hour in the north direction, and another object is going with 25 miles per hour in the southern direction. So when you put direction also, it becomes a vector. Anyway, so then you say all this, I had glorious time with mathematics in Kolkata. Kolkata, there are a lot of people who can't make head or tail of mathematics also. But in your case, it so happened you were 4 years in Kolkata, maybe Indian Statistical Institute or somewhere. You know, uh, that's when you had great happiness in study of mathematics. So, Paurvadehikam, physical body is not important. And having practiced some Purascharana. Purascharana is you chant some mantra millions of times. There's some numbers. You had done, let us say, Trambakam, Yajamahi, Sugandhi, Shivardhanam, etc. in previous life. And now in this Gurukula, you are in the kitchen helping out cooks, but you hear Trambakam, Yajamahe and your hair stand on their ends. And one day there was not much work, you are free, you sat behind, and when they were all chanting Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Vardhanam, you went almost into Samadhi. Wow! How did it happen to this kitchen girl? Not to these other children of Vedic scholars and so on. This girl came from some house. She was an orphan. Sometimes there are such inspiring stories. From a very poor family, orphaned at young age, a girl finds herself in some ashram in doing some what they call a menial job. But rest is history. She rises. Yatate cha tato bhuya. She then yatate, strives, puts in more effort. Bhuyaha samsiddhav. She puts in effort for higher and higher attainment. Siddhi itself is accomplishing. Sansiddhi is you accomplish spiritual goals with such excellence. O Kurunandana, O Arjuna, born to the illustrious Kuru family. As we have said before, not only the 100 children of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, but also children of Pandu, Kunti, Madri, and the others. All of them are from Kuru dynasty. But generally we call Dhritarashtra's children Kauravas and Pandu's children Pandavas. Pandavas also have their origin in some king, I guess, called Kuru. Adi Shankara says, Yasmat tatra yoginam kuletam buddhi sanyogam, buddhya sanyogam. Buddhi is part of the subtle body. When somebody dies, the gross body is burnt or buried, but the subtle body consisting of 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, 5 pranas, 1 mind, 1 intellect. That's how Viveka Chudamani puts it. 17 sukshma aspects of your personality, not the sthula body. Sukshma indriyas, sukshma karmendriyas, sukshma pranas, and mana and buddhi. All of them, they travel to the next life. So that is buddhi. Buddhya sanyogam, buddhi sanyogam vilate paurvadehikam, purvasmin dehe bhavam. All that happened in the paurvadeha. Purva itself, we call it taddita, becomes paurva. Yatate cha prayatnam karoti cha tatah tasmat purvakrita sanskarat bhuyaha bahutaram. He had attained quite a bit in his previous life, or she had done. Now bhuyatharam, even more. Sansiddhau, sansiddhi nimittam te kurunandana. And then rest of it follows. Shankara connects us to the next shloka. Katham purvadeha buddhi sanyoga haiti. How does it actually work like that? Sri Krishna says that there was abhyasa in previous life. Abhyasa. This girl, maybe in her previous life she was a man or a lady only, doesn't matter. Gender changes. Even in the very popular, famous, best-selling book by Brian Weiss, the psychiatrist of Florida who wrote in the 90s, that famous book, Many Lives, Many Masters. There is a lady character, Catherine, that he says is a different name than the actual patient he had. Professor or Dr. Brian Weiss hypnotizes a lady, 27-year-old young lady, who was having a lot of psychological problems, and then she remembers past lives. And some 72 lives she remembers in that book. Then later on, I don't know whether it's still around and live, but Brian Weiss became an internationally known figure in the context of reincarnation. Born to a Jewish family, many people into Jewish families take to Sanatan Dharma, it seems, more easily than Catholics and others. So Brian Weiss he took to Hinduism in some aspects like duck taking to water. There, Catherine actually had some lives where she was a man. So, let's read the shloka. Purvabhyasena tenaiva riyate hyavashoki saha jidnasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Purvabhyasena. I already said this. In her previous life, this girl, had done Tambakam Yajamahe Sugandhi Shivardhanam Urvarupamyo Bandhanam Mutyor Mukshiyam Amritam millions of times. That Purva Abhyasa. And now, as she listens to it in this Gurukula, where she did not come for any spirituality, she wanted a job and she got a job in the kitchen. But Riyate, Harati is the active voice, Riyate is pulled. He is attracted towards the Veda mantra, giving her also surprise. Why do I feel like going there? That's not my job. But I want to listen more. I want to go near the class that is going on in the Pathshala. And then Jijnasurapi Yogasya Shabda Brahma Athivartate. Shabda Brahma is, as Shankara puts it, Vedokta Karmanushtana Phalam. The Vedas have lot of karma kanda. That is referred to as Shabda Brahma. Then there is the Jnana Kanda. Acharya Shankara says, Yaha Purva Janmani Kritaha Abhyasaha Saha Purva Abhyasa. In past life, whatever practices you had done. Tenaiva Balavata, it has such strength. Riyate, you are pulled towards practices, associations. And some, to a great extent, it's not in your control. You are pulled. Even if halfway you say, I don't want to go, you find legs moving towards the classroom. In both good and bad, it's like that. If you have bad samskaras, somebody who doesn't want to smoke finds himself picking up a cigarette and I don't want to smoke today, but the hand has already picked up. It is lit, it is on the lips. Avashaha. Avashaha means, helplessly, as though some other force is pulling you towards those good or bad deeds. न कृतं चेत योगाभ्यासजात संस्कारात् बलवत्तरम अधर्म लक्षणम तदा योगाभ्यासजनितेन संस्कारेण ह्रियते. So, paragraph is a little longer. Shankaracharya gives a little more of insight into how it's all as per certain reason. Karma Siddhanta is very powerful. It's not just about whether you are born fit and fine or handicapped or mentally retarded. It's not just about various pleasures that you will enjoy in this life, being the result of karma of your past lives. It's not enjoyment, status, and fame, name, etc. Above all, as we already said in this class, whether you rise on the scale of intelligence or you fall, also your purva karma. Let's pause here for now. Next class, perhaps, we will be able to complete this 6th chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.